Yeah, I'd like to place an order for delivery. Let me get an order of the fried pot stickers, right, and a Mongolian beef with white rice. That's fine. An hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, thanks. Have a good night. An hour and 15 minutes for delivery? We can do better than that. Look, no one is going to dispute the convenience of delivery and takeout food, and I'm certainly not here to denigrate anyone who works it into their diet a few times a month, or more, or less. All I'm saying is, with a few staple ingredients in your pantry, you can make Chinese or Japanese style takeout food probably in less time than it takes them to deliver it to you. And unless you have an exceptionally wonderful golden panda wok wall china place near you, it's probably going to be better than what they bring to your door. There are, in my opinion, two tiers of ingredients when it comes to pantry staples for cooking Asian food. Tier 1 of our pantry staples begins with soy sauce. Secondly, sriracha, a garlicky, thick hot sauce. Cornstarch, which is not only used in most sauces as a thickening agent, but is also used to bread meat before being deep fried or shallow fried. Fresh ginger, yes, fresh, yes, it will go bad quickly, but if you put it in the freezer, it keeps for several weeks up to a few months. And finally, fresh garlic. Tier 2 of my list of pantry staples are ingredients that may not be quite as commonly used, but if you're trying to prepare any kind of authentic Chinese American dish, you're going to want to have them around. First, we've got oyster sauce. Doesn't actually contain any whole oysters in there, but has some of the liquor concentrate. It doesn't taste like oysters, it's just rich, has tons of glutamates, and adds a huge umami bomb to any kind of dish that you put it in. It is strong, use sparingly. Speaking of which, toasted sesame oil, also a very strong, robust flavor, so use sparingly, but it adds a very smoky, earthy note to any kind of sauce or dish. We have mirin, which is a rice wine that also has been sweetened. It's often used in things like teriyaki sauces, but it adds a nice sweet punch to any liquid that you put it in. We've got hot mustard, basically think of Dijon on steroids. And finally, sriracha's thicker, more garlicky cousin, sambal. It's a chili garlic paste, again, it's used in a lot of sauces to add a bit of garlic flavor and also heat. When you order steamed or fried dumplings off the menu from your local takeout place, what you're most likely to get is either a pork or vegetable stuffed dough that is relatively thick, almost resembling more of a bao bun, but slightly thinner, and nothing like the traditional gyoza or gyoza, which are the Chinese and Japanese dumplings. That being said, dumplings themselves are an incredibly common food in that part of the world, and so in at least that sense, it's a pretty traditional dish, although the end result not necessarily has the same mouthfeel. When it comes to Mongolian beef, the Mongolian term comes from the fact that the beef is usually sliced really thinly and coated in a sauce, a lot like Mongolian barbecue. But unlike Mongolian barbecue, it's not grilled and there's no real barbecue aspect to it whatsoever. There is a dish that many people say originated from the Xinjiang province in China, which consists of thinly cut pork in a salty, slightly sweet sauce with charred scallions or sauteed onions of a sort. So again, Mongolian really doesn't educate us or help us much when it comes to the name of the dish. It's kind of a misnomer, but some of the ingredients themselves do date back or do trace back to original Chinese cuisine. So let's get started. We're going to begin by slicing up about 1 cup of cabbage. Going to go across it one way, then back the other way. You just really want to get it into some fine pieces so that you don't have any large chunks in your filling. Once that's done, we're going to get that into a large mixing bowl and bring on the garlic. Smash 2 to 3 cloves depending on their size, and go ahead and get those minced up finely. Go ahead and add those to your bowl, and now get your ginger. You're going to want to peel it with the back of a spoon. It's a lot easier to do than with a knife. Once you've got it peeled, go ahead and slice it into small pieces, and from there go ahead and get it minced down really fine. You'll also take 1 scallion or 2 if it's pretty small. Go ahead and slice up the whites and the greens into small slices. Once you've got it all sliced up, run your knife back through it. Again, make sure there's no chunks in there. Go ahead and get that into the bowl. And then to that, we're going to add 1 whole egg. We are also going to add some sambal and black pepper. About a tablespoon of sambal, but if you don't like it that hot, leave it out or just add a small bit. And finally, we're going to add in about 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of soy sauce. Go ahead and get all that mixed together, egg beaten up and everything combined nicely. Should look like that. To our vegetable and liquid mixture here, we are going to add 1 pound of ground pork. Now, you could use ground chicken, ground turkey. I've actually never tried it with beef, but it might be okay. But pork is pretty traditional. So you're going to get that in there, and then probably just dispense with the spoon and get that mixed up. With all respect to gyoza purists, we will not be using round wonton wrappers for our recipe today. Why? Well, because one of the major things that I want you to walk away from this video understanding is that making these dishes and this type of food is something that you can do with ingredients that you already either have in your pantry or you can get at a local grocery store or supermarket. And I personally have not seen round wonton wrappers at any grocery store in my life other than an Asian specialty market. And telling you to go to a specialty Asian food store is quite the exact opposite of quick and easy. So for this video, we will be using the typical square wonton wrappers, which I believe are available in pretty much every major grocery chain. That being said, they will look a little different. And in my opinion, it's going to be even better, because one of the best parts, if not the best part, about gyoza or pot stickers is that slightly crispy brown bottom where it sticks to the pan before the steam releases it. By making triangular 2-sided dumplings, we're going to get a lot more of that surface area and a lot more of the crunch. That being said, have I made the typical round ones before? Yes, I have. It's on my Instagram from January 27th, 2016. So it's not that I can't, I just choose not to. And now for the fun part. We must construct our gyoza. Begin by laying out your wonton wrappers on a baking tray or on the countertop, any kind of large work surface. And for the purposes of this video, I'm only going to make 8, but this recipe, using a pound of beef and all the other ingredients, will make somewhere around 50 pot stickers. So certainly can serve a crowd, or 2 if they eat like I do. Next up, we're going to acquire a small glass filled with just room temperature water. Get our filling. Going to put about a heaping teaspoon or 2 in the middle. You really got to be careful not to overfill these guys. If you do, they won't close, they won't seal, and that makes everyone sad. Once you have the filling in the middle, you're going to dip your finger into the water and you're going to brush the edges of the wontons with water, and you want to do 2 or 3 at a time. As you get good at this and get to where you can go faster, you can do more. We're going to pick up the wonton gently and we're going to fold it corner to corner and then seal down each edge by applying some gentle pressure with your fingertips. Alright. Again, pick them up gently, fold them corner to corner. And if you get too much filling in there, just squeeze a little bit out. When it comes to actually cooking your gyoza, this is going to go fast, so you want to have everything you need ready to roll. I'm using a large non-stick skillet. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of olive oil and put that over medium-high heat. As soon as the olive oil comes up to temperature, we're going to get our gyoza in the pan, and the only other things we're going to need are some aluminum foil, and I have a 1/3 cup of chicken stock for steaming. You could use water, but I don't like to miss any opportunities to add extra flavor when they present themselves. Once our oil is hot, we are going to take the pot stickers or gyoza and place them in a single layer. Try not to have them touching each other. Won't be the end of the world, but we want to give them some space to cook. They're going to go for about 3 minutes or so until that bottom side is starting to get a little bit golden brown. Then we're going to steam them to finish the cooking process. Once they start to look like that on the bottom, you're going to add in 1/3 cup of chicken stock and cover it up. At this point, you can turn the heat up just slightly because we want to cook off all that liquid. And then after about another 2 to 3 minutes and the liquid is evaporated, they'll be ready. Alright, almost all the liquid has evaporated. We're going to get these out of the pan. If you used an appropriate amount of oil, they should not stick. They should slide out pretty easily. I'm putting them on to a plate with a little bit of paper towel in it just to catch any of that extra oil on there. Now if you were making more, you could just add a little, clean out the pan, add a little more oil and keep on going, but for now, that's good enough for us. Now I must caution you before eating these, that after you taste them, you will not be able to have the ones from your local takeout or delivery place again, at least not with any kind of real satisfaction. But is it worth it? Absolutely. They are delicious on their own, but to truly take them to the next level, we need to make a dipping sauce. Our sauce is simple. It requires only 3 ingredients. We will combine roughly equal portions of soy sauce, mirin, and sambal, and mix those together well, and that's all you need. Unfortunately, there's nothing left to do but eat these in front of you. I can't recommend this strongly enough. It's a few steps and a few kind of unique ingredients, but easy to find at any grocery store and absolutely phenomenal. With our appetizer safely tucked away, we can now turn our attention to our entree, our main course, our Mongolian beef. I would highly suggest, if you plan to serve this with rice, that you go ahead and get that cooking, because this is going to come together lightning fast. By the time that rice is steamed and rested, you'll be ready to eat. We begin by cutting up our steak. I'm using sirloin steak, but any kind of relatively lean meat would be fine. I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. And then I want to go ahead and slice it thinly on the bias. You do need a sharp knife to really do this, but if you don't have one, or if you just want to make this even easier, pop the meat into the freezer for about 30 minutes to an hour before you plan to cut it, and it will make it a lot easier to slice thinly. Alright, so I have our thinly sliced sirloin steak here in a large bowl, and I have the rest of the ingredients minus the sauce for our Mongolian beef. I've got 8 ounces of button mushrooms that I trimmed a little bit of the stem off and then either quartered or halved depending on their size. I have 3 really large scallions or green onions that I minced the whites and then cut the greens into about 1-inch pieces. If your green onions were not ginormous like mine were, you're probably going to need 5, 6, or 7 of them to have enough. 1 tablespoon of chopped fresh ginger, 1 tablespoon or about 2 to 3 cloves of chopped fresh garlic, and that's really it. I'm going to take some cornstarch, probably a couple tablespoons worth, and sprinkle down into the meat, and just use my hands to mix that up and get the meat coated. As for the ingredients for the sauce for our Mongolian beef, I would absolutely be lying to you if I told you that I ever once measured the ingredients that I put into it. But for the purposes of this video, I have a measuring cup out. I'm gonna make it just like I always do, and I'm gonna kind of try and give you a feel for what I'm putting in there. What, you wanna help? Okay. I'm gonna start off by putting what I would consider as a heaping tablespoon of cornstarch down on the bottom. Followed by about a cup, we'll see, of chicken stock, chicken broth. Maybe a little more. I do like a little bit of heat, so I'm going to just toss in just about a tablespoon of our sambal. Let's go with probably about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, just a touch of our toasted sesame oil, probably half a teaspoon or so. I'm going to get some oyster sauce in there. Again, about a tablespoon. And finally, some brown sugar, light brown sugar. You could use honey if you wanted, but I actually like the way the brown sugar kind of caramelizes the sauce to the meat. And again, about a tablespoon, and just mix it all together. With all of our ingredients prepared, we are now ready to cook. I'm using a non-stick wok, but you could definitely use a large non-stick skillet. It would work just as well. We're going to go into our very hot wok here with some vegetable oil, about a tablespoon or a little more. And we're going to put in about half of this beef, and I'm going to lay it in pretty carefully so I don't splash myself too much. We're going to put in only about half of it because we want to actually brown the meat and get some color on it. And if we added it all at once, a lot of the water would cook out, and liquids would cook out, and it would kind of boil or steam in the pan or the wok. After a couple of minutes, we're going to start to turn the meat. After another minute, we're going to go ahead and get the beef out of the pan. It's not quite fully cooked yet, but that's okay because it is going to finish cooking through for the last couple minutes in the sauce. I'm going to add in just a touch more oil. Put in the last of our beef. Alright, our beef is out of the pan. One last addition of oil. We're going to put our mushrooms in. We're not adding any salt at all because, as we've discussed before, mushrooms are mostly water, and any salt we put in there is just going to leach that moisture out faster. So we want these to brown up just a little bit for about 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll add the ginger and garlic. Alright, our mushrooms are right where we want them. They've got a little bit of color, but they're not going to get all soft. So it's the perfect time to go in with the ginger, garlic, and the whites of our green onions. Now, garlic particularly can burn quickly at high heat, so we're only going to have this in here for about 30 seconds just for it to get fragrant before we add the beef and the liquid. we're going to give one last mix to our sauce before we add it in. Now, as this comes up to a boil, not only is the cornstarch going to help it to thicken up, but the brown sugar is going to help it to thicken up as well as caramelize a bit onto the meat. So it's going to take almost no time at all to come up to a boil, and at that point we're going to add in the rest of our green onions and we'll be ready to eat. I garnish my Mongolian beef with a little drizzle of sriracha for a little extra heat and some white sesame seeds just to look the part. Hopefully you can see that with just a few simple ingredients in your pantry and a flavor base stemming from ginger, garlic, and scallions, the world is really on your doorstep, culinarily speaking. Hope you'll give these recipes a try and let me know what you think. That beef is so tender because we cut it on the bias against the grain. That sauce is not overly salty. There's a really rich flavor from the oyster sauce and a nice little hint of sweetness from the brown sugar. It's really excellent. Anyways, I'm gonna finish the rest of this. That rice I mentioned, yeah, I forgot to make it, so looks like it's just beef and mushrooms for me. Not that I'm complaining. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Dishing Out. Until then, go make something delicious. Like this.